love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Both Mike Washington and Charles Bishop are out on assignment. So you have one and other, and we'll bring on the rest of the guests shortly. Welcome to episode 671 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast. The show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NEIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. In short, we just call it HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host. Today is none other than A.D. Drew and Bryan Fulford, the team that gives you sports wrap once a week on Sunday. We'll have them giving us a little additional time and space to bring it to you from the last perspective. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to KCWH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper, in a beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. And that's multi-Hall of Famer, Ralph Cooper. As I said, let me wish Charles well. I know he had to get some medical treatment, dental nature from that perspective. Yeah, exactly. There was a little bit of pain, so I told him to take the night off. He was trying to muscle through. I told him we're good. With that being said, let me go to you, A.D. Drew. How are you doing today?
Another day, Dr. Cavil. You know, most people say another day, another dollar, but I'm still searching for the dollar.
Let us know when you find it. That's for sure. We might want to, if not a piece of your dollar, at least the other dollars that you might find. Brian,
they're going to tax the heck out of that dollar anyway. I'm only going to get about 63 cents.
That's true once it's taxed. Brian, how you doing?
Doc, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. You know, some teachers during summer break get a chance to relax, sit around on the couch, sleep, sit around the porch. Not this teacher,
Vacation.
Not this coach. Yeah, what is that? I don't know what that means. The life of a high school basketball coach in the month of June is just as busy as the winter season, doggone. So I haven't had my summer break yet, Doc. So I'm already starting to feel it, but it's all good.
Man, that's tough, man. You better get in a break, find some type of way to sit on somebody's beach and put your feet in somebody's blue water.
I like how you said that, somebody's beach and somebody's sand. Yeah.
For sure. With that being said, Drew, hopefully you might want to find that dollar now, because if this bill passed, you won't even get your 67 cents. It might go down to 50 the way taxes will be. But it's a whole nother discussion, as the world and what we knew of the United States seems to be changing so rapidly. I'm not sure if any of us will be able to do what
we got taxes and tariffs, Dr. Cavil.
So you say what?
Taxes and tariffs.
Yeah, taxes, tariffs. You might be sent away to a hellhole for I know if you look the wrong way or say the wrong word. No telling what may be happening pretty soon. So we'll try to keep it straight and narrow. With that being said, I do have a bit of some troubling news. It was reported from Prairie View, and I'll do the report from CBS. I know more of it, but I'll just stick to what is out here in the news cycle. Jackson Bailey, former Prairie man and football player, dies at 22. Former Prairie View A&M football player Jackson Bailey has died at age 22, the program announced Tuesday. The cause of death was not listed. Bailey joined the program from 2023 season but did not play in any games. Quote, Prairie View A&M University Department of Athletics extends its deepest condolences to the family, friends, and teammates and fraternity brothers of Jax Bailey, a cherished member of the Prairie Panther football program. In the PVAMU community statement read, Bailey started his college football career as an Arizona, enrolling as a 3-star linebacker recruit from Red Oak, Texas. He redshirted during the 2021 season before transferring to Louisiana Monroe. Bailey played in 9 games during his 2022 season, recording 14 total tackles and 1 quarterback hurry. He chose Prairie View A&M to be closer to home, and in doing so became an unforgettable part of the campus family. The statement read,
Oops, we lost Dr. Cavil there, Bryan. Not quite sure what happens to him. So if I see him, I will bring him back in. But Bryan, while we're talking about people passing, I also have some bad news I want to bring to you from Atlanta, from the house. Morehouse mourns the passing of legendary coach and alumnus Thomas T.J. Wells, class of 1974 from Morehouse. Morehouse College Department of Athletics is deeply saddened to announce the passing of beloved assistant coach and proud alumnus Thomas T.J. Wells, class of 1974, who served the Maroon Tigers with distinction for almost 4 decades, and leaves behind a championship legacy that helped define the success of Morehouse track and field and cross country. A member of the class of 1974, Wells was a 2-sport athlete who played football and ran track for the Maroon Tigers. And he's been coaching at Morehouse since 1987, Bryan. And with him as assistant coach and Coach Willie Hill as head coach, Bryan, they combined for, count them, 38 SIAC championships in cross country, indoor track, and outdoor track. The most recent success this past season was the 2024 cross country championship and the 2025 inaugural SIAC indoor championship. Said athletic director Harold Ellis, TJ Wells was more than a coach. He was a cornerstone of our program, a mentor to our young men, and a proud Morehouse man through and through. He shared a vision of excellence that went beyond medals and trophies. Together, he and Coach Hill built championship programs and culture rooted in discipline, love, and purpose. His presence will be dearly missed, but his legacy lives on in every athlete that he touched. So, Dr. Cavil, I was adding in, since we started off with somber news, I was adding in the passing of longtime Morehouse track coach T.J. Wells. So,
thank you. Yeah, exactly. Appropriately done and well to pick it up for me. Just wanted to add that these things hit closer to home than you often think. My twin nephew, the one that played football, we did some high school updates when he had some big plays at Prairie View. They went to the same high school together at Red Oak. So they knew each other. Then he decided to go ULMN, and then obviously said I didn't know how much where I got to, but he started at Arizona as a 3-star, and then he transferred to Monroe before he came to Prairie View. Well, Kobe, my nephew, was at ULM too, so he knew him really well. They had traveled in the same circles and ultimate ended up coming to Prairie View together. So condolences. Kobe, I reached out to him and told him condolences to the Prairie View A&M football team. Condolences to all involved, all those that loved him, and condolences to, as you said, appropriately AD in regards to the losses. It's always tragic to lose folks, but it always seems even more challenging when it seems to be an individual that's young, that doesn't seem to get opportunity to have more life. But with that being said, we'll take a short pause here as we go into the break. We'll come back to get in a little more news since we had the break up there, but let's take this pause, go into a break, and then we'll come back on the side and talk a little bit more about some news and what's out there before we get into some business side of HBCU sports, where I want to see these gentlemen thoughts on that. With that being said, let's take our pause first, moment of silence. With that, let's take our first break and come back on the other side and pick it up a notch. Because I see Bryan, he's excited right now. He told everybody what'd you say, 5, 6? Where were you? 5? I think whatever it is, 5, 6. You looking good right now, 2-1 series to brighten up a little bit. I knew I could get Bryan to smiling after
2 games away, Doc. 2 games away.
2 games. With that being said, let's take our first break and come back on the other side.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACChallenge.com.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. But today we have none other than the AD Drew and Bryan Fulford. With that being said, I also wanted to acknowledge AD Drew. And
What I do this time, man?
This is a good one.
You know, when the dean call your name, you got to look up like, oh crap, I messed up.
Yeah. No, this is where we were on the show and we were talking about, as we'll get a little bit into this, because I want to get Bryan's thoughts on this. I know y'all talked about a little bit, not a little bit, but quite a bit on the show. We had an interview, but a lot of it was my thoughts. And so I want to give Bryan a chance to give his thoughts in terms of the new landscape, as he's had a chance to think about it, his perspective, because as a host, he really asked me for mine and didn't get in deep in that. But Drew, you got a chance to espouse your thoughts, ask some additional questions as well on Tuesday. Bryan did not. So I want to get that up and see what your thoughts are there. As we play musical chairs and swap out for various different reasons, things going on. But AD Drew, and now hopefully he's listening while I say this. Oh, no, I was going to give him credit because you like, yeah, you said you're going to say something, didn't say it. Yeah, I was like, go check the tape. So we got into it, and as we do on the show, not into it as some people would think when you say them words. But there was a discussion on opting in and opting out. The original date was June 1st. And then because of the delayed announcement on the settlement, which was announced this past Friday, it was pushed to June 15th. Drew had already heard and thought, really, and opined the question, would they need to push it back? And that they probably would push it back. I said, well, it'd be hard for them to put things together this fast. But it sounds like the NCAA has learned that they can do things faster than ever. And as Drew suggested, that it would move closer to that July 1st date. Well, according to Ross Dillinger, deadline for D1 schools to decide whether to opt into the House settlement for the next year has been moved back to June 30th. Sources tell Yahoo Sports an announcement should be coming later today, which was yesterday. Previous deadline again was June 15th. A little more time for the schools to make the decision. I'm surprised that they would need more time. If you didn't know what you're going to do by now, you're in trouble trying to make it up in 14 days. Regardless, I like the idea. If you need to push it back, you push it out. Nothing wrong with that. Key date is July 1st anyway. So with that being said, before we get in this discussion, I did want to acknowledge AD Drew's brilliance. But any other news that you wanted to show out there before we get a little more into this House settlement, asked Bryan, as I tease it out as long as I can. Drew, any news that you want to get on the table?
Yeah, I'm going to go off script, Dr. Cavil, pretty much because, I just put this in our group chat probably less than an hour before we came on the air. But I want to talk about two coaching hires out there that were announced today. We'll start off on the women's side. Chivalry is not dead. And Aliko Dunk has been named the women's basketball coach at Virginia Union. Dunk becomes the 10th coach in the history of Virginia Union's program, and the press conference will be held tomorrow to make the for the media to get to meet Coach Dunk. Dunk comes to VUU after being the head coach at Stillman College for the last 8 years on the women's side. As Stillman's head coach, Dunk guided the Tigers to a 26-6 record, the most single-season wins in program history, and the 2025 HBCU AC regular season title. The Lady Tigers notched their first win in the NAIA tournament, while Dunk's 112 wins are the most by a Stillman women's basketball coach in the last count on 4 decades. Everybody prior to Stillman, Dunk spent 2 seasons as the head men's basketball coach at Elizabeth City. Prior to that, he spent 5 years as the head coach of the Elizabeth City Lady Vikings, compiling an 83-56 record. That's coaching announcement number 1, everybody. And this one touches my heart right here. My former basketball coach at Morehouse College, Douglas Whitler, has been named the head basketball coach at Allen University. Just kind of refresh everyone's memory. Andre Payne had left Talladega to become the head coach at Allen University, but he was only there for a cup of coffee because his former president took over as president at Talladega and asked him to come back to Talladega as the athletic director and also pick up his duties as women's basketball coach, which created a late opening for Whitler at Allen. Giving y'all a little bit of history on this. The athletic director at Allen, Philip Wallace, was the assistant athletic director for 2 years at Morehouse. So that's where that relationship comes from. So this business is all about relationships, everybody.
A lot of it.
And because of the timing of what happened at Morehouse, Whitler never had an opportunity to get his name in the hat the first time for Allen. So Wallace was not going to let this pass the second time. Now, getting back to the article, and this comes from from the AUYellowJackets.com. Allen University is excited to welcome Douglas Whitler, a proven leader and championship-winning coach, as a new men's head basketball coach for the Yellow Jackets. Whitler arrives as the new coach at Allen following a 4-year tenure at Morehouse College at the same position. During his time as head coach at Morehouse, Whitler amassed an overall winning percentage of 65.5% That's 76-40 for y'all who want to sit there and actually do the math. And 73.4% marked in conference play, 59-21, if we're counting games, marking the highest win total of any Morehouse coach in their first 4 seasons and posting the second highest winning percentage in program history. Willis teams were consistently among the SIAC's top teams as the Maroon Tigers won 3 consecutive SIAC East Division regular season championships under Whitler from 22 through 24.
Congratulations to those two, Coach Whitler as well as Dunk. Well, I'm not sure if you can get a better basketball last name than Dunk.
Only if your middle name was Slam.
That would be even better. Bryan, with that being said, I'd be remiss if I didn't allow you the chance to get your thoughts on what some of the news that you want to share with the people today. What's on your mind? What has you beating twice during the day, thinking about it?
Well, honestly, Doc, I'm trying to gather information. You know, yesterday was the first day of the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a tally, and I think Drew and I mentioned this on Sunday. Yesterday was the semifinals of the men, in which we had, let's see, by my count, 8 HBCUs represented. 5 of them were from the SWAC. Let me see. I'm going to do the math right. Yeah, 5 of them were for the SWAC. Today, women were competing in the semifinals. Only 2 schools represented amongst the women, and that was North Carolina A&T and Howard. I have been trying to gather what information I could. I can't say it's all in one place, sadly, but I am going to just scroll through and just give a shout out and mention to HBCU track_field. That's an excellent Twitter handle for, their coverage. They do a great job of covering HBCU track and field. And I will start by just kind of mentioning North Carolina A&T, who had a total of 9 athletes competing in 5 events, including 2 relays. Now, I say all that, and unfortunately, as I'm scrolling here, I can't tell you how many and which ones of those athletes advanced, but I will recognize them at that point. And if anybody in the chat knows, hey, drop it in the chat. But I will give a shout out here while I'm scrolling to, let's see, Arkansas Pine Bluffs, Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole clocked in a personal best of 45.44 in the 400 meters, and he will advance. He is one of the 9 who will advance to the finals, the NCAA finals, which will run tomorrow. Coppin State's Jarrett Gentleys, I think it was Gentleys is his last name. I hope I said that right. He qualified for the finals in the 400-meter hurdles with a qualifying time of 50.18. He was the 9th man. So he was there was also a couple other athletes who ran a 50. So the 7, 8, 9 all qualified in. So he will have an opportunity to race for a national championship. Let's see, that's 2. And if you just bear with me as I scroll up, it looks like North Carolina A&T, one of their relay teams, 4x400, did not qualify. I understand there's also an injury to Alabama State's to the young man from Alabama State who was running the 100 and the 200. I think he got hurt. Jamarian Stubbs got hurt in the 200, according to the tweet here from HBCU Track and Field. So I don't know if he ran in the 100. but it looks like that injury did occur and knocked him out of the 200. And then the last note, it looks like a young man from Jackson State, LaDamian Rowell, he will be competing for Jackson State. I believe he is in one of the field events, if I'm not mistaken.
A&T Roy has an update on the Aggies there, Brian.
Okay, I just see that. So thank you, Roy, for that. And so that's what I could gather, Doc, from the men. And on the women's side, this is hot off the press because this occurred all of 7 minutes ago, maybe within the last 10 minutes. Howard University's women's 4x100 relay team advanced to the finals by winning their heat. So
big news.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Great.
Yeah, that is hot news right off the presses to Howard University. And again, Howard had the most representation. I mentioned A&T and Howard were the only two women's track programs. They had I don't know the total number because you had a relay team, but they were competing in 4 different events, Howard University track. So I got to imagine probably anywhere from 4, 5, 6, 7 of them
there.
Good stuff. Great update, particularly how you had to muscle all that together. I think the way you had to do it, you did a really good job of making it as concise as possible.
Shout out to HBCU track and field again.
Shout out to A&T Roy for giving us that update.
Yes.
Appreciate him for being live on the spot. We asked for it, and the lab listeners deliver. I love that. I appreciate that. Before we take our first half break of the show, if you would, our next break, I want to go back to you, Bryan, and stick with you for a minute. After you heard what we discussed on the show, the details we had obviously passed on Sunday, where are you thus far? It's not quite 4 or 5 days old, but we're getting close to Friday, so it's almost a week, it seems. Where are you sitting with what you gleaned from this House NCAA settlement?
I don't have any new thoughts, Doc. The one thing I did hear you say on Tuesday's show, and I did mention this yesterday on our show, Wednesday's O&G, that this payment, this $2.8 billion payment that college athletes who participated in, who chose to be a part of the settlement from 2016 to 2024 is only for Power 5 athletes. So even though our universities, Florida A&M, Delaware State, who I understand they've been out in public stating what they're going to be a part of, and A&T and all these other schools who are we're all footing the bill for 85,000+ college athletes who participated in Power 5 programs. So none of those HBCU Division I athletes who participated in 16, unless they were at that school during that time period before they transferred, get a dime, cent, nickel, penny, nada, nothing. And that part right there is fascinating and continues to blow my mind. And
I've been saying this, and I don't think people quite understood.
I don't think people got it. Until you said that. I don't think people understood that. They're like, what? Wait a minute. What?
I got the perfect analogy for
and
it.
I said it a while back. I was like, these Power 5, now Power 4, as I allude to, is going to get worse, is the Super 2 and Power 2. We need to focus a little more in terms of how they weave and bob, like politicians in a lot of ways, particularly what we say on the far right in regards to how they, once they decide they're going to stronghold some things, get a super majority. All this democratic thought process, what's fair, whatever, you can throw that out the window. They like, look, we got control, we got money in the bank, as some people like to talk about, and this is how we're gonna roll. And if it Doesn't work for you, too bad, because it's going down. That's essentially what the Super 2 and Power 2 did collectively. They were like, look, we got the power. Y'all don't like it, we're going to threat to take our ball home. But in terms of schematics of a business, it doesn't get any better than that. And that's why I keep telling everybody that says, oh, they're going to leave and all that. Why in the world would you leave where you can push the expenses on 31 conferences but get 90% of the revenue?
There should have been 27 conferences. We can't get anybody to agree on anything. Sky is blue. People will say, no, there's a cloud there, so it's gray. That 27 conferences should have been up in arms, walking to the NCAA offices in Indianapolis, saying, "Hell no, we won't pay." That's all they should have been.
I'm gonna go to you, Drew, but I want to get this out there. They actually did, but again, we're so enamored with everything else, either just our HBCUs or just the Power 4, as everybody else want to call it. What was the Power 5, Autonomous 5, what they actually call the NCAA? Remember when this first came out, all those D1 commissioners and a lot of the ADs was like, they weren't even in the room when the decision was made. Remember, they got emails saying that this is the settlement agreement. They weren't even party to being in the room when they discussed the financial breakdown. All they got was the email talking about this is where we going and this is how much y'all got to pay. Gangster.
Yeah, gangster. You know what it's like? It's like you live in a subdivision and you got to pay the HOA fees for the maintenance of the grass, but you have no grass at your house. Because you chose to live in that subdivision, you still got to pay the HOA fee so everybody else can get their grass cut. That's what it's like. It seems like to me. And look, if we can go through and arrest senators and everything else now for opening their mouth, we ain't got a chance.
Press conference. Yeah, you ain't no telling what's gonna go down next. Yeah, you're right. So let's take our second break. Come back on the other side and want to get into some discussion in regards to this article that talks about the asset class. Private equity has arrived in college sports. But one last thing I do want to get from both of you all, particularly Bryan, you might like to do this in the manner you like to do to throw odds out there. There are 12 HBCUs in the SWAC, D1. There are 8 D1 HBCUs in the MEAC. That's 20. And there are what we call 3 independent HBCUs, which makes 23. Of the 23 HBCUs, Bryan, you said this. What is your over and under of how many of those will opt in? We got a cheat clause because we know about 5 of them that have come out publicly, said they were going to opt in. You said Delaware State, Maryland Eastern Shore, obviously Hampton and A&T out of the CAA because the CAA said they were going to opt in. So you got 4, 5 of them out there. One I may not have heard or listened to. Sounds like I think Morgan State was talking about how they were going to do some of that. But anyway, what is your over and under of how many of the 23 Division I HBCU programs will opt in?
You want me to answer you now? Want me to give you something now or after the break?
Go ahead. Give it to me now.
So my one qualifying question to that is, what does the conference factor into that? So I mean, can you be in the conference with a split of schools who are opted in and who aren't? That is my question to that. Yes,
you can. We will take a break and make it a tease.
Okay, so then I got an answer
I will give you a chance. Yeah, give you a little chance to give an answer, and then we'll see Drew's thoughts on Bryan's answer after this next break.
Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
This is Bryan. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Lab. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Lab, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavil of Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app. As we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Football fans, HBCU football is back in the ATL with the Cricket MEAC SWAC Challenge Kickoff. Representing the MEAC, North Carolina Central, and representing the SWAC, Southern Eagles, Jaguars, the Marching Sound Machine, the Human Jukebox. The kickoff trophy is up for grabs, and bragging rights are on the line. The rivalry is real. Bring the family and join us pre-game for the fun-filled Coca-Cola fan experience, including band jamborees, food, activations, and fellowship. For tickets and information, visit MEACSWACTalents.com.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
I do want to qualify this. You can still provide your answer just like it is, because we'll put a qualifier on. I do want to qualify it like it is. Like, for conferences, do not have to make a unified decision. The presidents and chancellors of that conference can come together under the framework of the commissioner and all agree. They can vote it in almost as a rule if they want to. So you have like the Ivy League, as I said, as a conference, they've decided that they will opt out. Or like the Horizon League as a conference, they decided they were going to opt in. So MEAC has met for their spring, if you would, conference meeting. Didn't have anything come out of that as a collective that they were opt in. But just in case we'll qualify it. Obviously, the SWAC is meeting today and tomorrow. So theoretically, exactly. I knew that would be a pause. So that's why I'm going to give you a free qualifier on this. We're going to say that before you go in there, that they could come out of this and we could hear some meeting notes that the conference as a collective would decide to do it. But no, generally speaking, in terms of the guidelines, a conference does not have to set a framework about that. So let's operate as if the HBCUs that we talked about have not. Obviously, we do have the qualifier that the CA has opted in, so that's 2 freebies that you get. And I gave you some of the other ones. So we're at 4 or 5. Essentially, we've already heard that we'll opt in. So that means of the remaining number to get you to 23, how many do you think? What is your over and under?
I would set the line. I'm tossing up between 17 and a half and 18 and a half.
He's good with this. He's gonna have to do the half 17.
Well, the reason because I don't like ties. Ties.
I agree. I like it.
Ties are for European sports. But we'll put it at 17 and a half. That way, if you think it's less, let me see. How am I say this?
That's like 3/4.
If it's less than, then basically you're thinking that the bottom 5 schools and their athletic budget. I just did a quick search for the athletic budgets of the bottom 5. I just don't see how in the heck the bottom 5 can afford to opt in. I just don't. I mean, they're operating at a fifth of what some of the top 2 or 3 athletic departments in HBCUs are. So I would go, I would set the line at 17.5 and go there. It's 17. Is that 75%? Is that what the number is?
Yeah, at 17.5, that means it would have to be 18 schools to opt in, or 78% of HBCUs would opt in, which means you would be safe with your 5 bottom HBCUs in terms of financials. If they didn't opt in, you would be safe, because you would be at 18 essentially. At 18.5, you would be a little bit outside of that in terms of what that looks like. That means only 4 of your 5 of the bottom would have to opt out, which would be 82.6% or nearly 83%, just under 83% would be opting in for your 18.5. So the interesting when you look at it between the 17.5, 18.5. Well, let me get in this a little bit and see what you're taking the under. Yeah, I did make sure I got your count.
Yeah, and I'm gonna make it brief, especially with like the news I saw yesterday. Over the last couple of days, I saw FAMU's total budget, not just athletic budget, but total budget is being slashed by almost $35 million for the entire university. Given the financial times that some of our HBCUs are in, I see the under, and I think that number is going to be closer to 50% for this first year. Because of factors such as that, because a lot of institutions are, not sure of enrollment numbers are going to be because of the uncertainty with financial aid, because of the uncertainty with the government, and different things like that. So I see this number much closer to 50% than that 70+% number that Bryan threw out there.
So to get under your 50%, that would be 11 schools.
Yeah.
If you get to 12, you'd be over your
just over
50%, just over at 52%. So that means on your market, based on all the landscape that you're talking about financially, you're seeing only 11 schools, 11 of the D1s would opt in. Fascinating. Well, this is another thing in regards to where you're going to see some of the schools pushing to stay with those Super 2, even if they're at the bottom of those Super 2 conferences. You've heard the Big 12 talk a little bit about this from a conference perspective, but they weren't quite ready to get there. But as soon as you heard the House settlement, and I'll read this verbatim, if you would, from Ben Horney and Eric Fisher, in terms of their article they have written, coming out of Front Office Sports. Asset Class is the title of this article. Now that the House versus NCAA settlement has received final approval, private equity firms and schools have the certainty they need to finally start entering into deals. The dance has officially begun with $500 million initiative from sports business consultancy Elevate, which says it already has an agreement in place with 2 Power 4 schools. The official title of this article is Private Equity Has Arrived in College Sports. Again, I'll read a couple of the paragraphs and then we can get in some thoughts. This, I just want to talk about it from a holistic FCS, FBS. What are your thoughts in terms of private equity? We'll save for the last segment. We'll get in directly. What does that look like for HBCUs? Private equity in college sports are no longer standing on opposite sides of the room, waiting for someone to make the first move. The dance has officially begun. New $500 million initiative from sports business consultancy Elevate brings institutional capital directly into college sports separately. Boise State, quote unquote, actively considering bringing private equity investment into Broncos athletic department. and expects to have a deal in place within the next 6 months. The school's athletic director told Front Office Sports these developments come just days after the landmark House versus NCAA settlement was granted final approval, paving the way for college athletes to be paid directly by schools and heighten the need for capital for the ones who have opted into the agreement's $20 million salary cap. Pre-House, the PE, and college athletic departments were circling each other but staying arm's length away. Sidley Austin's Chuck Baker recently told FOS that despite mutual agreement, colleges were hesitant to be trailblazers with regard to taking private equity investments. The House settlement, though, has been giving PE schools the certainty they needed to finally dive into head first, according to Bryan Anderson, who co-leads the sport practice at law firm Shepherd Mullen. Quote, the House settlement helps make college athletes a little more predictable, a little more certain, end quote, Anderson tells FOS. This will be a catalyst for more deal activity, also was quoted as saying. Elevate, formed in 2018 by executives of major sports entities like the San Francisco 49ers and Harris Blitzer Sports and Entertainment, which owns the Philadelphia 76ers, Washington Commanders, New Jersey Devils, and more, is one of the first moves. The $500 million it has at its disposals committed to the private equity firm Velocity Capital Management and the Texas Permanent School Fund, which has existed since 1845 and is charged with providing support to public schools. The money is ready to be deployed and will be doled out to schools through private equity agreements. That means Elevate will lend money to schools on a deal-by-deal basis and will then be paid back under negotiated terms. Quote, depending on what makes sense for the school, end quote, according to Jonathan Marks, Chief Business Officer for College Elevate. Quote, we're not taking equity positions in the deals, end quote, Mark tells FOS. We don't own anything at end of the day. We're providing capital, and ideally that school will leverage the service Elevate has to offer to maximize revenue, end quote. Last thing I'll read here before I get your thoughts. Anderson is not surprised to Elevate is not looking to buy stakes in athletic departments or teams, which is a little different when you think about private equity, generally for those that are familiar with this. Quote, structurally, it's difficult to make equity investments into athletic departments or teams because for the most part, they are departments within a nonprofit university, end quote, he says. That's why private equity credit is the most logical investment structure for college athletics at this point in time, end quote. So that's the way I want you to kind of think about this. Again, we'll tackle this in two ways. I want to first get your thoughts in terms of the overall landscape, in terms of what this looks like. And then as you do that, you can talk a little bit about particular, what would it take? What would it look like for HBCU being able to find a way to do this? And what schools out there potentially could do that? We heard a little bit about this from Howard University's coach, basketball coach, Blakeney. They kind of put this out last year. And people went back and forth their thoughts on it, amazement, or some of them were concerned. But with that being said, Drew, I'll go with you. What are your thoughts in terms of private equity now entering into the race of athletic programs?
It's tough to digest this, Dr. Cavil, because of the technical phrase private equity, because like you think of private equity as company going in, making an investment, looking to maximize it, and then dump that asset after they maximize the profit that they can, and go buy another asset, maximize that profit, and go and dump it like they can, almost like kind of like what venture capitalists do. You know, that's what I think of when I think of private equity. So trying to think about this in this, like say, this not-for-profit space, and I'll just put it out there. Is this almost like a loan shark or a payday loan company type investment for these companies into these athletic departments, because they're giving them credit so they can go do what they need to do, but we all know what credit means. You have to pay that back with interest at some point in time. So are we getting favorable terms, like when the housing market is good, when you getting prime plus 1 or prime plus 2, or we talk about credit card fees? No, 19.5%, 29.5%. Or we talking payday loan type fees where you paying 300-400%. That's what I want to see structurally on this, because it on the surface it sounds good. Just like all those funding emails that I get in my email all the time, say you have qualified for this amount of money and that amount of money. But please go read. You ain't even got to get to the fine print. Just read the big print. Then get to the fine print and realize what you got to do, and realize all money is not good money.
That's a very important point you make there. I would surmise that these are going to be less than your payday and more closer to what we think about bonds. When they do the bond rating for institutions, which tends to be pretty good, but that's how they're able to get decent loan rates, because they're bonds that are loans as well. They're just done at the university level, and that's often how people may not realize why they take benefactors that donate money. A lot of the financing part of the rest of the money, or however they're going to finance, is done through bonds through the institution, university. So I'd imagine if they're going to get this, it'll be closer, similar to those bond rates. But the point that you make is really important to understand the financial aspects. So it's easy to say, let's get into this business of, the equity investments in terms of private equity. But really understanding what that means financially is going to be a little more challenging, which gets us to the point where we talk about HBCUs and why it may be a little more challenging for them to figure out how to do that, and which institutions may be able to be in a little better position to leverage that. Bryan, your thoughts?
Drew hit on a lot of the concerns and questions that I had. There's two parts in the article that you read that caught my eye. The quote that says, "We are not taking equity position in these deals. We don't own anything at the end of the day." Right? That's what Mark said. But later, 2 paragraphs later, he says, the goal for any of these deals is to maximize revenue. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn at any point in the past week. I did go to the School of Business and Industry for a minute and got a degree from there. And I will just say this. What's going to happen when administrators make decisions that don't, quote, maximize revenue? Will Mr. Marks be calling somebody at, Boise State, and saying, I'm not liking what the athletic director is doing. I think it's time to make a change. Or he's not negotiating with the people that I think or worse, that football coach is costing us opportunities to get wins, which are thus affecting our ability to maximize revenue. What is, so you can, as Drew just said, all money's not good money. You can go lay down with these folks if you want. That could be a great source of revenue, because maybe you don't have the ability, manpower, or knowledge, whatever, to go and raise the funds yourself. And they come in offering these sweet deals. But no one should be foolish enough to sit there and buy this quote that we don't own anything at the end. You're a lie. You own that university. If I'm giving you $500 million, you best believe if I call, I'm short of the governor of the state, I'm the second guy who gets, you pick up the phone when I call, because I just gave you $500 million. So come on now.
I would say this, Bryan, you are right, facts on the money, but I would say that how much different is that than a big booster that gives?
It's not. There is no, and see, that's big.
It's a company versus a single person. That's the only difference.
Exactly. The big booster may drop 10, 20 million, right? Maybe a million at its smallest number, which is, hey, that's a lot for one person, you know.
Correct.
But, you know, 500 million is a lot.
No, I'm just to your point I like what you said because it's so true. What if it gets to the point where a coach is not winning at the rate that the investor thinks?
You're going to see the bat signal go up.
Right. But I'm saying, doesn't that happen with big time boosters now? If a coach is not winning at the rate that a big time booster that's given $10-20 million, they tend to pick up the phone and answer for them. And oftentimes we hear changes for coaches. For me, this
because
is
I'm buying that coach out. I'm buying that contract out. I don't like what that coach is doing. Hold on, I give you the money to buy him out. We see that happen all the time.
the AD will say just that. Well, the buyout clause is this. He said, check your checking account.
Cashiers will be there tomorrow. Cashiers.
It's already in there.
It's already transferred. I got you.
We're going to close on this note. Great show in terms of a lot of good information. I want to get up on it. Need to make sure that Bryan gets out of here in a timely manner. He promised him up front. Last thing I will say, we opened up on Tuesday on some tough news in regards to HBCU sports, with Fisk expecting to discontinue trailblazing HBCU gymnastics program. But on a positive note, we have the first HBCU women's wrestling has a national championship coach. This comes out of HBCU Sports. The first HBCU with a women's wrestling program now has a coach to lead the way. Delaware State University, talked about them, has announced that Kenya Sloan, a former NAIA national champion and assistant coach at Sacred Heart, will become the first head coach in the Hornets women's wrestling history. Sloan, a native of Knoxville, Tennessee, talking about Fisk, was a 4-year wrestler at Campbellsville, Kentucky University, winning a NAIA women's wrestling title in 2022. So she's young there in terms of her working experience, but getting a great opportunity. She returns to her hometown to start the Knoxville Girls Wrestling Club and assisted with Knoxville Catholic High School's girls program before her time at Sacred Heart. She was also a clinician at the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic training camps in Colorado Springs, Colorado, for the girls under 17 teams. Delaware State announces the formation of its women's wrestling program last November, hoping to field a team for the 2025 season. The program was started thanks to a $1.25 million gift from HBCU Wrestling. So that is a great way to move forward. Again, please type in there and give me your thoughts in terms of private equity. We want to get that information out there. But that'll do it for us today. I want to say thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop as they were out today. Hopefully we'll get them back next week. But I want to say thanks to AD Drew, Bryan, Fulford, and good luck on your paces moving forward. I came in with Oklahoma, but I have no real rooting interest. So it'll be interesting to see how things go tomorrow because the third game tends to be whoever wins that when they split on the first two is the team that wins. But we certainly know tomorrow, we either know that we're going to have a series or somebody take a major step and become just one game away from a NBA championship. We shall see. I know which way Bryan Fulford is wanting to see things go. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday, 6 o'clock. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. It's DrKenyattaCavil on Threads, Facebook, and Instagram. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Bryan?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Travel light, everybody. We holler.